So we continue with our topic ratios and proportions. And we are now on objective number 6. And that objective is to compare ratios. And the question is asked, which is larger? This will also suggest that the question may be which is smaller. And you have to answer based on what is actually on the exam. So the two ratios we have is 3:2 and 14:9. The question is which is larger? So when we compare ratios, we have to rewrite the ratios and put them in its fractional form. So 3:2 becomes 3 halves and 14:9 become 14 ninths. We need the denominators to be the same. So what we must do, we must multiply the first ratio, which is 3 halves, by the denominator of the second ratio. So the 3 halves will be multiplied by 9. And the first ratio, that is the second ratio, will be multiplied by the denominator of the first ratio. So the 14 ninths will be multiplied by 2. So this process will allow us to make a visual comparison in which one is greater. So when we multiply 3 halves by 9, we have to make sure that the numerator and the denominator is actually 9. And so even though I'm saying 9, we're actually multiplying by 1 so that the ratio, the value of the ratio doesn't change. So we put 9 ninths, which is 1, and we put 2 halves, which is also 1. So when we multiply these two ratios, the value of the ratio doesn't change, because when you multiply anything by 1, the value stays the same. So 3 nines are 27, 14 twos are 28. As you can see, the 28 is larger than the 27. The denominators are the same, so we only need to focus on the numerator. So therefore, 14 ninths, or the ratio of 14:9, is greater than the ratio of 3:2. Let's have a look at another example. So when we compare these ratios now, we're going to rewrite the ratio into its fractional form. So 5:3 is going to become 5/3, and 7:4 is going to become 7/4. So the 5/3 are going to be multiplied by 4, and the 7/4 are going to be multiplied by 3. Of course, we will put the 3 and the 4 in both the numerator and the denominator so we can make the denominators identical. They're going to be 3 times 4, which is going to be 12. So let's look at what happens here. So when we take the 5/3 and we multiply it by 4/4, or 4/4, it's going to give us 20, and this one here is going to give us 21, because this one, you put in the 3 over the 3 and the 4 over the 4. It's the reverse. Notice I'll have 3 and 4 in the denominator here, but here I'll have 4 and 3, and this is might be a better way to remember when you're doing this. So we're going to get 20/12 and 21/12. So as 21 is larger, the second ratio is the larger ratio. That ratio is 7:4. Now, if you're doing the BGCSE, you can use a calculator. So, of course, all you need to do is put it in its fractional form, and then all you need to do is to subtract. So when you take the 5/8 and you take away 2/3, when you put it in your calculator, that's going to tell you whether the first ratio is larger or the second ratio is larger. And we have 3 rules. So the first rule is if you get a positive value. That means if 5/8 take away 2/3 give us a positive number, then we know the first number is larger. But if you get a negative number, then the second number is large. And as you can see, 5/8 taking away 2/3 will give us a negative 1/24. Now, of course, if you get 0, that means they're the same. So that means that the smaller value is in front. So if the smaller value is in the front, the second ratio will be the larger value. So let's just look at one more example. So if we have 13/8 and 11 sevenths. We will subtract. 13 eighths take away 11 sevenths will give us 356. Of course, you would be using a calculator. I'm not showing the working because this is assuming you're using a calculator. So notice this is a positive number. So that means the larger number is in the front. So 13 eighths or 13 to 8 would be larger than the ratio of 11 to 7.